Welcome to Chess to Impress, and these lessons, as you know, are for beginners. Today, the lesson that we're going to talk about is lesson number 13, and it is all about retreating. Right? In chess, when your pieces get attacked, you can choose to either retreat, to block, or to capture. Right? That's what you need to do. Whenever you're under attack, you can either choose to retreat, you can either choose to block, or you can either choose to capture the piece. It totally depends on the position. In this position, white is in a check. My first question to you is it good for their king to retreat? Retreat means to move, means to fall back. For example, the bishop on b4 gives a check to king on e1. Is it good if their king goes to e2? Nah, because if they do so, they lose the right to long castle. So they must not move their king. So the obvious move that they should play is to block the check. Now, white plays c3. Should black retreat? Yes. The black's bishop should retreat, because if you just stay there and do not do anything about it, the pawn's just going to capture our bishop, and then we are going to lose 3 valuable points. Even if we defend the bishop by playing a5, this makes no sense, because the same thing comes in. We're going to lose 3 points. We're going to lose our bishop for the pawn, which is of no value, which means we're left with the only option. The only option is to retreat. We cannot even capture the pawn, because the same thing applies. If we capture, we get a point, but then we lose 3 points. So we end up losing 2 points. 3 minus 1 equals 2. So the only option that we have is to retreat with the bishop. Now, let's talk about the squares where the bishop can go to. The bishop, I'm only talking about safe squares over here. The bishop can retreat to a5 because that square is safe. The bishop can go to e7, the bishop can go to d6, and the bishop can go to f8. These are the only options left for the bishop to retreat. Now, amongst these options, we have to make a choice. We need to choose which one amongst them is the best. I don't think bishop a5 is fine, but then if we go bishop a5, they're just going to bombard us with their pawns. They're just going to keep coming at our bishop. And then their queen side will expand. So we definitely cannot play bishop a5. We can play bishop e7. I like this move, but is there something better? There's no point coming back to f8, because that was your original square. What are we doing there? Right? So the answer is we should play bishop d6, because not only do we retreat the bishop, but we also make sure that our bishop is attacking their rook. Now we are playing offense, because now their rook has 5 points, our bishop has 3 points, which means we are in total control, right? So whenever you retreat, choose the best square for the piece to be. Now let's take a look at position number 2, right? In this position, think, visualize, understand this. Which one of our black piece is in danger, or which one of our black piece should be retreated? Yes, the rook is in danger. Why is it in danger? It's you might say it's defended. You're right about that. But it's still not good for black, because black's rook is worth 5 points and this bishop is worth 3 points. It's like giving away 5 candies and getting only 3 in return, which is it's our loss. So it's our duty to protect the rook. Now the question is, there are so many squares, right? I think amongst all the 6 squares that I see, 3 of them make sense to me. First of all, rook to d8, right? Absolutely brilliant. You must play rook to d8, because now your rook is on an open file, and as we know, we've all studied this, that rooks always belong on open files. Rook are strong pieces on open files because they cover a lot of squares. They have a lot of scope. Even rook to c8 makes a lot of sense, because it kind of, not if right away, but it sort of indirectly puts more pressure on c2. Maybe you can just juggle up something in the future. Maybe you can just make a battery on the c file and push your a and b pawns together, get rid of the knight, and hit the pawn on c2. So rook c8 also makes sense. So I love these 2 moves. Rook e8 is also perfect. I mean, you can put this rook on e8 and the other rook on f8, right? So I think these 3 squares are correct. Now, why rook b8 isn't correct? Because the rook on b8 does not do anything. It just sits there. Again, same applies with the rook on f8. Rook on f8, because this rook, what will this rook do then? Right, that square belongs to the rook on h8, not the rook on a8. And of course, this makes no sense, because if you play rook to g8, that's just cramping up all your pieces. See that? It's just like your position kind of becomes cramped. So yeah, if I had to retreat, or even if you have to retreat, make sure you retrieve correctly, which means either put your rook on c8, d8, or e8. All these positions or all these squares make a lot of sense. Perfect. Let's go to position number 3. All right, now this is super cool. I love this position. Now what happens in this game is queen goes to a1. Right, now what this queen does is queen not only looks at our pawn on a5, but the queen has a long range, and the queen on that a1 h8 diagonal is also aiming at our rook. Now the question is, which one do we save? Right, which one do we save? Everyone who plays chess, who knows the basic value of pieces, will say, of course we need to save the rook, because the rook has 5 points and the pawn is only worth 1 point. So maybe I will just move my rook to a spot where it's completely safe. Maybe I can play rook to a7. Oh, not rook to a7, rook to a, or rook to, h7. Or maybe for that matter, I may give a check, which is correct. Now the question is, why save one when you can save both? So how does black move the rook and also protect the pawn? You're right. The best option for black would be to play rook a8. Not only has black managed to save the rook on h8, but this rook on a8 also defends the pawn on a5. Correct? So I love this move, rook a8. Another option would be to give a check, to play an in-between move. We call this as an intermezzo. Right? We just give a check. The king needs to move wherever the king goes. Of course, the king cannot go on the first rank, because if they do so, we kind of like skewer the king. I'll tell you what skewer is in our later classes. But if we just like, we hit the king, and once the king moves, we get the queen. So they cannot go to the first rank. So if they go to the third rank per se over here, then maybe we can just play this and save the pawn. But I do not like rook h2, because I do not want my rook to be far away from the king, because the queen can come in and like one thing leads to another. Maybe if the queen coordinates somehow and can give a check, like for example, if the queen goes over here and the king goes over here, something happens, right? The rook and the king are far away from each other and the king cannot like support the rook, then we're going to end up losing the rook and the game. So I just want the rook and the king to stick together and all the pieces to complement and coordinate with each other. That's why I played rook to a8, which is perfect, right? The king supports this and that, this pawn supports that, and the rook supports it. So all of our pieces are like well placed, and all of them are chilling and hanging out together like brothers and sisters. All right, position number 4. Now, again, a very important visualization exercise. Which pieces are in danger? First of all, it's very important to notice that the knight attacks the queen. Does it only attack the queen? No, sir. It also attacks the bishop. Which one should we save? Of course, we should save the queen, because the queen has a lot of points. Now, where do we put the queen? Such that I not only save my queen, but I also kind of like defend the bishop, right? As simple as that. You put your queen on f2 so that the queen is away from the attack of the knight. And in case the knight captures the bishop, the queen can capture it back. So remember, you retreat when the piece that they attack with has less number of points than the piece which is under attack, right? If the bishop is under attack by a pawn, you cannot just leave your bishop over there. You need to retreat. You cannot even defend. Okay, there might be exceptions, but you cannot defend all the time. You need to come back. You need to fall back. You need to retreat, right? All right, so I'll see you in lesson number 14.